Good evening, class, and welcome to this brief session on hepatitis virus replication. This session is intended to cover only the relevant areas that will make it easier for you to understand the class on pharmacology of antihepatitis drugs tomorrow. It is being forwarded for reading before you actually attend the class tomorrow, and it is recommended that you can read these sections in detail from textbooks of microbiology, pathology, medicine for detailed knowledge on the same. So in this session, we shall be just having an overview of viral hepatitis, the general facts only. We shall be going into a little more detail about the hepatitis B viral replication and hepatitis C viral replication. So all of you know a good deal of things about the virus already from your microbiology classes as well as the medicine classes. So you know that they are obligate intracellular parasites and they cannot replicate on their own. They have to use the host machinery to replicate. The structure of a virus contains a nucleic acid core that can be made either of DNA or of RNA. So you'll be having either DNA viruses or the RNA viruses depending upon the core which is made up of either DNA or the RNA. Now the nucleic acid core is surrounded by a protein capsid, and in some viruses there is a further outer layer that is made up of lipid, and that is and such viruses which have got an external lipid envelope are called as the enveloped viruses. The others which have only the nucleic acid core and the protein capsid, they are called as the non-enveloped viruses. Now, viral hepatitis, you all know, it's a systemic infection of the liver caused by heterogeneous group of hepatotropic viruses, and it results in the inflammation of the liver. The common hepatitis which are encountered globally are hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C, caused respectively by the hepatitis A virus, hepatitis B virus, and the hepatitis C virus. We shall not be dealing with the hepatitis A virus in this session. This is because the hepatitis A virus is a minor and a self-limiting disease. The treatment involves only symptomatic management, and there are no drugs which are targeted against the hepatitis A virus as such. Whereas, on the other hand, hepatitis B as well as hepatitis C infections are more serious infections, and there are drugs which are targeted against the virus in specific. So this will be the our core area of discussion as far as from the pharmacology point of view. So hepatitis B infection is a serious and a common infection of the liver affecting millions of people globally. The mode of transmission, all of you know, is by parenteral route or by the perinatal route or by the sexual route. The infection can present as an acute hepatitis B infection within 6 months of contracting the virus. About 90% of the people with acute infection, they resolve. However, approximately 10% go in for chronic infection. Of the people with chronic infection, again 50% can resolve over the years. Some become asymptomatic carrier state. The others go on to have a chronic hepatitis, which can be either chronic persistent hepatitis or chronic active hepatitis. Of these, the chronic active hepatitis is more serious because it has the worst outcomes in the form of cirrhosis of liver, hepatocellular carcinoma, or extrahepatic disease like polyarteritis nodosum or glomerulonephritis. So you can see that fortunately we have got a hepatitis vaccine against hepatitis B. So the one of the carcinomas which can be vaccine preventable is obviously the hepatocellular carcinoma. You can see one of the outcomes of hepatitis B infection is hepatocellular carcinoma, and this is one carcinoma which can be prevented by the vaccine, that is the hepatitis B vaccine. Now we look at the structure of the hepatitis B virus. So it is a DNA virus. It has got a double-stranded DNA, only partially. You can see in the figure that the DNA is double-stranded only partially. There's a part of it which is single-stranded also. Then it has got a capsid core, which is having antigens HBCAG and HBeAg. It is covered further by the lipid envelope having the surface antigen HBsAg. So this is a double-stranded DNA which is partly double-stranded and partly is single-stranded. There is a capsid core which has got the antigens or the proteins HBCAg and HBeAg, and the lipid envelope which has got a surface antigen, that is HBsAg. I hope you have already read about all these in detail in your microbiology classes also. Now we shall look into the steps of viral replication. Now understanding the steps of viral replication is very important before you actually start to understand the drugs, because in order to understand the mechanism of action of drugs, you need to know how the virus replicates, and then only you can understand how the replication of the virus can be inhibited by the drugs. So this is the first step. So before that, we'll see this is the virus, this is the liver cell, and this is the nucleus of the liver cell. The one that you're seeing in the gray is the nucleus of the liver cell. So as a first step, the virus attaches to the liver cell membrane. Then it is endocytosed into the liver cell. Okay, you have already studied the process of endocytosis, and it is by this process that the virus is internalized inside the liver cell. Now after that, the nucleic acid core of the virus, it releases the contents. What are the contents? It is mainly the DNA and the DNA polymerase, and this is released into the nucleus of the liver cell. It is released to the nucleus of the liver cell. So you can see DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase is the enzyme which is involved in reverse transcription. The normal process of transcription proceeds from the DNA to the RNA. But reverse transcription, you will have the DNA strands will be formed from the RNA. That is why it's called as a reverse transcription. The DNA polymerase is involved in reverse transcription that we will be seeing on in the further slides. So as of now, what has happened that the core particle has released the DNA and the DNA polymerase into the nucleus of the liver cell. Now inside the nucleus, what has happened inside the nucleus? The DNA of the virus, through the process of transcription, it produces the messenger RNA. So the viral DNA is resulting in the production of the mRNA by the process of transcription. You can see here the process of transcription resulting in the production of the mRNA strands. Next, the mRNA will translate to produce proteins like the HBs, HBc, HBe, DNA polymerase, and other viral proteins and enzymes. We already saw that these are the proteins that were present in the core and in the on the surface in the viral structure. So now these proteins have been formed, that is HBs, HBc, HBe protein, and even further more of DNA polymerase also has been formed here, and other proteins and enzymes of the virus are also translated. So we are now in the process of forming a new virus, or we are in the process of replication. So we already have got the components, that is the HBs, HBc, HBe protein, DNA polymerase and all. So what is remaining? Now what is remaining is the DNA part, the genomic part. The DNA is not yet formed. Now how is the viral DNA being formed? So here comes the role of DNA polymerase. The DNA polymerase will cause the liver cells to make copies of the HBV DNA from the messenger RNA. So the messenger RNA you saw, it was translated to the proteins, and now the messenger RNA with the help of DNA polymerase is transcribed, or it's undergoing reverse transcription to form the viral DNA. Now this viral DNA will be incorporated into the new progeny that is in the process of forming. So here you are seeing that all the proteins that was required to produce a new viral virus is already produced, and you also have the DNA that is needed to produce a new virus ready. So next what happens is, you can see all of it is now assembled. That is, all the proteins, the viral DNA, everything is now assembled to form the new virus. Okay, and here you also see that some of the proteins are in excess than it is required to produce the virus. That excess proteins, they will form some chains or spheres, and they'll be there, and they'll give a ground glass appearance to the blood films under examination. Next one, the copies of the virus and the surface proteins are released from the liver cell membrane into the blood, and from there they will go and infect the further liver cells. Now this is the process of the virus replication. Now when you study about the anti-hepatitis B drugs tomorrow, you will see that the drugs that we are going to study will be inhibiting one or the other step of the viral replication process. The most common area where the drugs will be inhibiting will be the DNA polymerase. So tomorrow when we discuss, you will be coming across the inhibition of DNA polymerase. And you already have seen the DNA polymerase. It was involved in reverse transcription. That is, it was involved in the formation of the viral DNA for the new virus. The viral DNA was being formed with the help of DNA polymerase. Now if it is inhibited, the new virus will not be, the new viral progeny will not be formed, and hence the replication process will not be completed. So this is one mechanism by which the drugs will be acting, and you'll be seeing that in detail tomorrow. So with that, we finish the hepatitis B virus replication. Now we'll move on to the hepatitis C infection. So unlike the hepatitis B infection, it is not a DNA virus, it is an RNA virus. It is also an enveloped virus. At present, 6 different genotypes have been identified to cause the hepatitis C infection in humans. The transmission, like hepatitis B, is parenteral, can be through parenteral, sexual, or by the vertical transmission. Now, it also presents as an acute infection and as a chronic infection. The acute infection usually manifests within 6 months of contraction of the virus, and it can be either asymptomatic or it can be symptomatic, presenting with symptoms like jaundice, fever, and so on. Now, the characteristic feature of hepatitis C viral infection, which is quite different from hepatitis B, is that in this case, about 60 to 85% of those affected, they proceed to have a persistent infection. And of these, 20 to 40% will have cirrhosis, and 4 to 5% will have hepatocellular carcinoma. The end stage liver failure is also seen with chronic infection of hepatitis C virus, and liver transplantation for the end stage liver failure is one of the common indications for liver transplantation. With that, we'll proceed to the replication of the hepatitis C virus. So already we have seen the hepatitis B virus, so I'll try to simplify it further in this case. So here you can see this is the liver cell. It can affect even the lymphocytes also. Unlike the hepatitis B virus, which affects mainly the liver cells, the hepatitis C virus can affect the liver cells and also the lymphocytes in the blood. Now this is the liver cell that you are seeing here, and this is the virus. The blue colored one is the virus. The virus binds to the surface of the liver cell by attaching to some receptors. The receptors here are the CD81 receptors. Now the virus binds to CD81 receptors on the liver cell. Just like the hepatitis B virus, it is also internalized into the liver cell by the process of endocytosis. Now this is an RNA virus, so it will never be incorporated with the host genome because it is having no DNA. It's only having an RNA. So inside the cell, uncoating of the viral RNA occurs. It moves to the endoplasmic reticulum, and there the process of translation occurs. That is, the RNA will be translated, or the process of protein formation will occur, and resulting in the formation of polyproteins. It results in the formation of HCV polyproteins. Now, these polyproteins can be cleaved by the host as well as the viral proteases to form several proteins. Now, these proteins can be either structural proteins of the virus like the glycoproteins, or non-structural proteins of the virus like NS3 or NS4A, NS5B. Now, you have to carefully concentrate on the non-structural proteins, because you will be encountering these proteins tomorrow during the class. So the non-structural proteins are NS3, NS4A, NS5B. The NS5A non-structural protein is also there, but its function is not clearly understood, and hence we are not discussing about that in detail. Now you can, so you have seen the polyprotein being formed and the proteins being cleaved into several structural and non-structural proteins for the viral progeny. Now what happens is that the NS3 or the NS4A, they are proteases, and they can further split the polyproteins to form further structural and non-structural proteins for the new virus. The NS5B, it is encoding for RNA polymerase. Now, this RNA polymerase is causing the viral RNA replication. That means, so far you have seen that the polyproteins or the protein part of the virus have been produced by the process of translation. Now, we require the genome of the new virus. For that, we require to have a replicates of the RNA, and that is done by the RNA polymerase or by the NS5B structural protein, non-structural protein. So now you are having all the proteins that were necessary for the formation of the new virus, as well as you have got the RNA which forms the core of the virus. So finally, the assembly of the virion will occur, the transport to the surface and for release into the blood will occur afterwards. Now it is in the blood and it can go and infect the other cells. Now tomorrow when we are going to discuss about anti-HCV drugs, you will see that these drugs will inhibit one or the other step of the replication process. So the drugs can inhibit the virus at any of these steps, like starting from the binding to the entry to the translation process and so on. But the ones that we are going to see tomorrow is mainly the inhibition of the RNA polymerase and also the inhibition of the non-structural proteins like NS3 or NS4A, NS5B. So if these non-structural proteins are inhibited, what will happen? There will not be any viral replication or and further assembly of the new virus will not occur. So this will be seen tomorrow in the class. So you have to remember about the names of the non-structural proteins NS3, NS4A, NS5B. So you can go through these slides once again and make yourself ready for the class tomorrow. Tomorrow, when I start the class, I'll be discussing directly about the drugs. I'll not be going back to the replication process. You have to keep these processes in mind so that you can understand the class better. Thank you for the patient hearing.